Hey guys, today we are going to be, taking it back to the beginning. We are going to be doing everything you need to know about gel polish. All the tips and tricks and everything, all the little snags you're going to run into and how to make everything work with it. Because while it may seem simple to some of us, everybody's got to start somewhere. So let's just get some of this stuff out of the way. And I learned some tricks that I didn't know either that I'm going to share. So we're going to be using our pink nails today. So we're going to start out with just applying gel polish, okay? So the first thing that you want to do when prepping your nails to do a gel polish manicure is you want to clean up your cuticle area and buff your nails really good. The reason you want to buff them is you want to give a surface that the gel polish can stick to. Because remember, it doesn't dry right away, and it doesn't start to dry until it gets under that UV light, so it can kind of bead and pull away from each other. And if you buff it up real good, that gives it something good to stick to. We're also going to base coat it, but this is where you want to start. Now, remember, before you start, to push back the cuticles and then make sure you buff all that dead skin off too. So after you get it nice and buffed, you don't have to go crazy, just a light buff over the surface of the entire nail. And file it to your liking. You want to file it first. Okay, I got it nice and buffed. Next thing you're going to do is take your base coat. And, base, so that's where we're going to start, at the base. Another thing that you can do if you have like oily nail beds is take some rubbing alcohol and wipe it down after you buff it, and that'll get rid of any oils or anything left over that could cause it to chip or not adhere correctly. So you want to take your base coat and do a very thin layer over the entire surface of the nail. And this is going to give that gel polish just extra, it's going to be sticky when it comes out of the lamp. That's normal. And this is going to give it that good texture for the polish to stick to next. And it kind of levels out the surface. So you're going to let that cure, depending on your lamp, anywhere from 30 seconds to, 2 minutes. It just depends on your lamp. For reference, during this, I'm only going to be using the lamp when I'm curing polish. I'm going to use my UV flashlight for little stuff, so I'm not having to go back and forth to the lamp where you can't see what I'm doing. So that's what this is about. Just consider this a lamp when you see me use it, okay? Because this also cures gel polish because it's a UV LED light. Okay, now, when your base coat is done, next we're going to take our gel polish. You want to make sure that you're doing thin layers of polish, otherwise it's going to wrinkle up on you or start to chip or pull away. So you want to do very thin layers, then cure completely, do another thin layer. You don't want to put a lot on and try to cure through it because it's pigmented, so it's not gonna cure properly. Now, you also want to make sure you're not flooding your cuticles. So what you want to do is point your finger down and start just below the cuticle. And then you're going to push the brush up to the cuticle and pull it down. Now you're going to come over on one side and do the same thing in kind of a U shape. Pull it down the one side. And then to the other side, we're going to push up, pull down, just like that. And then go over the entire surface, make sure it's nice and thin, there aren't any thick spots. Now you're going to cure that layer completely. Like I said, anywhere, depending on your wattage, the higher wattage your lamp, the faster that's going to be. I use anywhere between an 80 watt and 120 watt, but with some of the kits, it's usually like a 34 to a 48 watt lamp. Those I would give it the full 1.5 to 2 minutes. But again, it just depends on your lamp. So after, I'm not going to do a second coat because, not necessary for what I'm showing you, but after that's all the way cured, let's see, we're good. Okay, after that's cured, you're gonna wanna use your top coat, whichever one you happen to be using. Actually, I'm gonna let that cure for a little bit longer while I explain this. So, when you're using your gel top coat, same thing, you can apply multiple layers, so make sure you're doing it nice and thin, otherwise it can peel up underneath. You want to make sure when you're doing your top coat, you're covering the entire surface and sealing around the edges. Now what that means is you want to make sure you're getting the sides and the very tip of your nail. And that's going to help save you a lot of grief later, because this is where it likes to chip at, because that's the part of our nail we use the most. So you want to make sure that you're sealing those ends, and I'm going to show you what I mean right now. So again, we're starting just below the cuticle, pushing up and pulling down, and doing that again in a U shape. Push up, pull down, push up and pull down. And then just go through and make sure there aren't any big blobs of gel polish. Now, once you're done doing that, you want to run all the way from the free edge all the way down the sidewall on both sides, and then run your brush across the end, just like that. And that's going to seal your nail, seal your polish really good. I messed up. Now, most gel polish kind of levels itself, so as long as you're doing thin layers, you should be fine. All right, so we're going to cure that real quick, and then I'm going to pull out some other stuff to show you. Okay, so we're going to be going over gems, decals, stickers, and I am going to touch on foils briefly. Now, I saw a lot of people have issues with the stickers, with getting them to lay flat so that they don't pull up at the edges. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that I have for that. And instead of using regular gems, I'm going to be using these big nasty gold studs so that you guys can see them. Alright, looks like we're about done. Now, you want to make sure you do your top coat layer before you do the rest of your stuff. Give yourself one good layer of top coat. If you're using no wipe top coat, you don't need to do anything now. If you're not using no wipe top coat, what you want to do is take a cotton swab or something with rubbing alcohol and wipe it down, and it'll get rid of that tacky layer. Now, real quick before we move on to gems and foils and all that, I want to touch on something real quick. If you find that you did flood your cuticle, which you can avoid a lot of that by just pointing it down while you work, but if you do, let's say, a quick trick that helps me, I like to keep some acetone and a thin like art brush on hand, like one of these. Just run it along the cuticles and clean it up. Let me show you what I mean. So if you flood it, I'm going to intentionally flood my cuticles. Please excuse my cuticles, they are a hot mess, clearly. If you find that you've flooded it right there, what you can do, dip that brush in some acetone, like not too much, you don't want it dripping, and then just run it along the edge, just like that, and clean it up. That way you're not curing that gel polish onto your cuticles. And if you've cleaned up your cuticles properly and gotten rid of that dead skin, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. So we're just gonna run that really thin brush right along those sides and right up at the top. Just like that. And that cleans it up for you. Yeah, so now moving on to gems. Okay, now couple quick things. Whether you're using stickers or water slides work like temporary tattoos. Basically, you just cut off the one that you want, dip it in water, and then slide it off the paper and lay it down. We'll do one of those real quick too. Oh, I don't have any water here, so I guess we're using Monomer. So you're going to take your tweezers and just dip that in your liquid and let that soak in. And then just use your finger to kind of slide it off. If you can slide it off. Nope, I broke mine. Okay, Monomer doesn't work for that, guys. So we'll just do stickers. Water decals aren't as hard because they tend to be very thin and flexible. So it's really not as much of an issue. Now, if you're using stickers, let's use one of these bad boys right here. Now, before you take this off, you want to lay down, you can use top coat for this, or you can use this gem glue. I'm using top coat because that's the most common method and the easiest way to do it. You're just going to put down a little bit, just a little bit of it, wherever you want that decal to go, just to give it something to stick to. Now, when you're laying these down, I have a couple little tricks to get those to lay flat. So the first thing, the first thing you can do, let me get this off of here real quick. Okay, So the first thing you can do is use saran wrap to hold it down. After you get it on there and press it down. Now sometimes when you press it down, you can just cure it like that and it'll stay. But like you can see right here, my edges are pulling up. So what I like to do in that case is take a little piece of saran wrap. See, it's going all kinds of crazy on there. Take a little piece of saran wrap about the size of the nail. Straighten that out. And you're gonna basically wrap your nail like this. And you're gonna hold it down like that while it cures, and that'll cure those edges into place. Lord. I don't normally use gel polish a lot. Just a personal preference. I usually work with colored acrylic, but I've been getting into it a lot recently. All right, so you're gonna hold that down. Probably shouldn't have done this on nail stands, huh? Genius. My thumb is too fat to fit. All right, there we go. You're gonna hold the edges down, use that saran wrap to like pinch it, and then you're gonna cure it like that. Now you would be in the lamp right now. I'm not gonna do that. All right. Then once you're done, peel that saran wrap off, and voila, your edges are down. Now, another thing you can do, if you can see, I still got a little bump here. Now, after you get this down, you're gonna cover that in top coat, which is gonna secure it even more. However, when you do that, an issue you're gonna run into is that you're gonna be able to feel the decal. Like you'll be able to feel that raised part where it's at. I'm gonna show you a little trick for that too. So you do a layer of top coat over the entire surface and then cure it. Do one layer. And it really, as long as you're curing it properly in between, it really doesn't matter how many layers of top coat you have to put on. Like, use what you need, you know? So you're gonna cure that, and then you're gonna get your buffing block back out. This guy. Put those stickers away. We're just having all kinds of fun here today. I got all my stuff out. All right. Now that that's cured, you can kind of see what I mean about the little raised area from the decal. So now that that's cured, you want to take your buffing block, the soft or the fine side, and you're just going to lightly buff it over where that decal is, and that's going to bring that raised area down to meet the rest of the top coat and make it nice and even. And take that top layer of top coat off of the actual decal. So now it's nice and smooth. And you want to wipe it off with a nail wipe. You can use alcohol, whatever. Just make sure there's no dust or residue on it. Then you're going to do another layer of top coat. And that is going to seal that, and you're not going to be able to feel that raised area on there. Now remember, when you're doing this last couple layers, if you're doing decals, remember you still need to be sealing the end of this nail every time. And there we go. Nice and smooth, no raised areas. So it's nice and flush. All right, we'll go ahead and cure that. And now we are going to talk about gems. So there are two ways that you can do this. You can either just use top coat, which I usually do sometimes. However, you have to make sure you use enough top coat. Or you can use UV gel glue, and you're going to use a brush for this. So let me find one. Okay, let's use this. Nah. 1 second. I'll find one eventually. There we go. You don't need much. You can even use a dotting tool for this. It doesn't really matter. So let's move on to a new nail here. Okay, so if you want to lay your gems down, first thing you can do is either lay down just a couple dots of the top coat where you want those at, or you can actually go over the whole surface with it and then just put the gems wherever you want them. And you want to make sure you have enough that it kind of comes around the sides of the gems. Now we're going to take our little gem picker here, grab a couple, pop those on. And then once you get them into place wherever you want them, you're gonna cure. Now, you can also, after you cure, you can go back and do another layer of top coat around the gems, which will help secure it even more and kind of pull it around the side so that nothing's getting caught underneath them. Now, you don't want to put top coat over the top of them or they won't be as shiny. Like, it sucks, but yeah. So another thing you can do to secure these gems on, because I had a lot of issues with my gems popping off, like stuff would grab under them, it was just a whole big mess. All right, so another thing you can do, you can take this gem glue. Now the problem with the gem glue is when you lay it down, you can kind of see it around the edges of the gems, but there is a way around that. This is really sticky. So lay it down. You don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it too thin. So you want to leave enough for it to be nice and secure. And you can get the glue off your brush with alcohol. That'll get it right off. So you want to put before you put your gems down, right over top of that glue, take your top coat and put a thin layer over top of it. I know it seems weird and like you're mixing it up, but what this is going to do is blend the edges of that glue and make it so you can't see it. So you don't see like big chunks of glue anywhere. Okay. Now give me my gems. If I can grab one. There we go. So you're going to put that right down where that glue was. And then cure it. Now I made a mess over here, so even though it's just for the video, I'm still going to be nitpicky about it and smooth that out. But yeah, that you can absolutely do that. Go back over it with your brush just to smooth everything out and make sure you got all the edges of that glue down. And what that's going to do is basically just cover the glue in a layer of top coat too and kind of hide it. All right, go ahead and cure that. You can also use the gem glue by itself if you feel like you can hide the edges. I'm not great at it, so I like to use the top coat on top of it. Okay, what's next? Foils, right? I think that's where we're at. Now, we are going to move on to foils, and then we will wrap this up. So, let's see what I got left over here. Now, you want to take your foil and cut off just enough to cover the surface of the nail, or you can leave it on and just use the edge. I like to cut off what I'm going to need so I'm not dragging this big long foil around with me, you know, for fun. So you're going to cut off just enough to cover the surface of the nail, or a little extra. You don't want to have too little either and have to go back. So, and we're going to be doing this matte side down. So we're going to take our gem glue. You don't need to put on top coat before you do this part. You can do this on the polish or even on bare nail if you want, up to you. You're going to take your foil glue. I like Mark Art because it's the best I've used so far. I also heard that you can use eyelash glue for this, in case you don't have foil glue. I'm not 100% though. That's just a hack that I saw. Now you're going to want to cover the entire nail in a thin layer of it. You don't want it too thick that it's not going to cure. Now, this is going to seem counterintuitive, but because we need that sticky layer for so much when we're working with this, but you want to cure this all the way. You don't want it sticky at all. You want it completely dry to where it's not tacky whatsoever. So we're going to let that cure. Now, you can use a couple different things for foil application. A lot of times they have these little rubber stick dealies that you can use to push it down. You can use your finger, you can use a makeup sponge, whatever. You just want to make sure you have something that's going to push that down on the surface and push all those bubbles and creases out, okay? I like these sometimes if they have enough give to them. If they're too stiff, it's not going to work because you're not going to be able to get all the way around the curve. All right, we're going to give that a second to finish up. Now, a little tacky is not like you don't want it sticky, okay? Now, you're going to take your foil And you want to cover the entire surface of the nail, but don't put it all down at once or you're going to end up with lines and creases. So you want to kind of start at one side and work your way out with either the little rubber thing or your finger. That's what I like to do. So start at one side and you just want to make sure you're rubbing all those creases out and that there aren't any bubbles or spots that aren't covered by it. Now, if you do have a bubble or a crease, there are ways to fix that. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So you want to make sure you're rubbing the entire surface of the nail. Give it a good, do it for a bit, Make sure you're rubbing it all down, and like I said, you can use the little tool. Start at one side, work your way over. And it's not always going to be perfect. You'll have that. Stuff happens, because it is a curved surface and this is a flat foil, so it is going to sometimes fold over. You'll have that. That's okay. So after you think you've got it down fairly well, and you've rubbed it with everything you got, like, put your heart into it. Don't play. Now when you peel it up, if you notice that there are some spots where the foil didn't take, keep in mind that glue is still there. So you can take the rest of the foil and rub it back over those spots. Like, see, I have right here and right here. So take your foil, put fresh foil over that part, and rub it a little more. And now you don't have the same creases you were working with before, so you can cover that spot. And a lot of times that's enough, because a lot of times it's a pattern, the foils have patterns or it's a solid color and that will hide it. There we go. Now, after you get that down, you're just going to take your top coat and cure. And then you have a lovely animal print, star print, whatever. I like the designer foils too, those are pretty cool. So you're going to cover that with top coat, remembering to cap the end and not flood your cuticles. That's important. If you do flood your cuticles and you happen to cure it and then you notice it's on there afterwards, it'll come off after a couple of hand washes, so it's not like the end of the world. So then you're going to cure that. It looks like I missed more spots than I did, but there's a lot of pink in that pattern. Okay, so go ahead and cure that. And that's about it. That's some of my tips and tricks that I think may help. If you guys have any questions or comments, comment down below in the comment section. Water slide decals I didn't do because I don't have my water in here, but basically same thing. Slide them off with the water, lay them down as flat as you can, top coat over. Same as everything else. Now don't forget we have the big giveaway coming up at 400. Which will be the Young Nails core kit. I will be entering everybody who comments into the raffle to win that beginner's kit, which is everything you need. So thank you guys so much for your support so far and everything you guys do to make this fun for me. I really appreciate it. I am going to be doing another giveaway this week for my birthday. I'm still trying to figure out what it was, so if you guys have any suggestions, I'm open to suggestion. Let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.